Today's program is funded through an award from the network of the National Library of Medicine Middle Atlantic Region, a partner of the All of Us Research Program. The National Institutes of Health All of Us Research Program aims to build one of the largest, most diverse collections of data of its kind for health research. The goal is to have 1 million or more diverse volunteers nationwide who will sign up and share information over time. The goal of the program is to help researchers understand more about why people get sick or stay healthy. By looking for patterns, researchers may learn more about what affects people's health. The All of Us Research Program will be a resource for many different medical studies and is a cornerstone of the Precision Medicine Initiative. To learn more about the All of Us Research Program, visit www.joinallofus.org/NLM. Medline Plus is the home of consumer health information from the National Library of Medicine. Imagine Medline Plus as your new health information Google. Medline Plus links to trusted resources including National Institutes of Health, Centers for Disease Control, Mayo Clinic, and Nemours Foundation. The health information here is easy to read. It is provided in over 45 languages, and most importantly, there are no advertisements or endorsements ever. Specifically of note is the Plus Health Topics, Mental Health. If you look at the table of contents, you can quickly skip to subjects like symptoms, diagnosis, find an expert, and more. Medline Plus does not create its own information, but gathers it and organizes it. Rather than doing an internet search, where you go to the Mayo Clinic, then to the American Academy of Pediatrics. The information has already gone through strict standards before being included. The source is always cited. There are also many instructional PDFs available that have been translated to other languages, including things like how to use medical equipment. So if you ever lose your papers, you can find it here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Rickard. I am a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Pennsylvania, and I currently have my own practice located in Brookville, Pennsylvania. My degree is a community counseling degree that I received from Slippery Rock University, and then I have my license, obviously, through the state. I've had lots of different experiences within working in mental health field. Some of those experiences include working for a local agency, being an outpatient therapist, mobile therapy, TSS work, working at a psychiatric center here in Clarion County as well. About 3 years ago is when I decided to open up my own practice. So I got asked to do this presentation. We're trying to figure out effective ways to be able to support your mental health, ways that you feel you can better balance yourself, better balance maybe those that you're working with, depending on what you need and where you're looking at. So when I was asked to do this, there were some question and answers that everybody was looking for and what they would like to maybe learn about or have more information pertaining to. So one of the top questions that everyone is asking is, how do you get your bang for your buck for mental health? How do you get the most out of your own self-care? So self-care is a tricky process. Self-care is not just about like, oh, go for a walk or get a book and sit down and read. Anything can be self-care, and it depends on what you feel is in the best interest for yourself. So I typically like to suggest basic self-care strategies. The ones that are including like your focus on what that means to you as a person. So each person is going to use their own self-care differently. I may like to go for a run. That's going to help me. I typically like to have social outlets. That's a good self-care strategy for me as well. But again, each person is very different. So extra sleep, yes, our bodies are not recharged if we're not getting adequate sleep. Average adult likes to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, where some people, their recharge is 5 or 6 hours a week. So it just depends, or 5 or 6 hours a night. Just depends on what you feel is best for yourself. Some of the ones that I typically teach my clients are taking a bath, reading, going for a walk, any physical exercise that you feel works best for you. Again, that does not mean that you're going to go join a gym and start, lifting. But if you like to do yoga, home workouts, One program that I really like is Beachbody, just because you can pay your membership for it. You can do yoga on there, you can do strength training, Pilates, whatever you want to do that helps relax you as well. I did provide the company a list of effective resources for our area, things that include apps on there. There's other licensed professional counselors that are listed there, programs, agencies, psychiatrists, etc., that are all available in our area. The crisis lines on there for Clearfield, Jefferson, Clarion, etc. So when we're talking about self-care and the bang for your buck, so as an extrovert, we typically recharge by being around people. So if you're looking for self-care strategies and you are an extrovert, a person that likes to be around people, you may recharge by doing social activities, traveling, getting out and going to listen to a band, or going out to dinner with friends. With COVID, that's been a little difficult, so we have to look at how can we intertwine that and in our work. Right now I'm on a Zoom meeting, so through Zoom, you can set up times to meet with your friends through Zoom. You can sit down, talk, kind of recharge a little bit. If you're an introvert, some of those things, like I mentioned, taking a bath, reading a book, coloring, can all be very positive experiences and things that may help yourself in those areas. I think there's something to be said for what you do as an adult may be different than what you did when you were younger. My self-care strategies when I was younger are not the same that I use now as an adult, and they're ever changing. If you find that one of those self-care strategies that you have tried does not seem like it's working now, consider trying some different things. It takes 5 seconds to get on a Google search and search self-care. I like to get my nails done. That's something that's one of my self-care strategies that I enjoy doing. It kind of balances me out, makes me feel a little bit more like me. Some people like to do massages. If you're working on a budget, you can do things like nature walks, regrounding yourself. You can go for car rides. That's usually very relaxing. Listening to different levels of music, creating a playlist of music that is for different emotions that you may feel. So if you're kind of wanting to feel a little bit more happier, you might want to have a playlist that has a little bit more upbeat music. If you're looking for something that maybe is going to release some agitation, you might want to go to the side of anger music. Seems to help a little bit. Do as much as you feel that fits your abilities, time, and options. Everybody's on a different spectrum, so nobody is within the confinements of this just works for everybody. Not the case. Each person has to find out how does that work into their time. If you like to be physically active and you want to join a gym, how are you going to work that into your schedule? Can you work that into your schedule? If you can't, can you do that from home? If you don't feel comfortable doing it from home, can you get a partner and maybe go for a walk while you're on a lunch break, or while you have time after class, or whatever's maybe going on in your life? The next question that I was brought with that I was actually really excited to look at was, I'm sick of self-care speakers saying you need to increase your resilience. Yes. As a therapist, I don't typically tell my people they need to increase their resilience, because that doesn't work, and it's not the same for each person. So when we're talking about building your resilience, what as a therapist I mean is building your acceptance to what things currently are. With COVID going on right now, everybody keeps talking about, like, we're all in the same boat, we're all in the same boat. No, we are not. Everybody's boat looks very different. The storm is what is basically the same. So some of us may have a lot going on at home that prevents us from that, from being able to use our resilience skills. We're looking at, I can't reduce my stress, or my hobby outlets don't exist. I'm restricted by my time and anything that's going on. So it's not about necessarily being resilient. It's about finding ways that fit for you to look at your circumstances and what reality is in terms of how much can I do or can I not do? How do I accept that this is what I have right now? There's a form of treatment called acceptance and commitment therapy, and it kind of talks about that. It talks about taking whatever your stressor is, putting it on the bus with you. Instead of driving the bus and just going, I'm going to push through all this. We don't have to push through. That's not what anybody is telling us that we need to be doing right now. We have to accept that this is what's happening, and we have to say, okay, where do I want to go with this? So for myself, I try to look at how you give yourself and validate yourself that this is what you're feeling, that this is where you're at. So one of the ladies must have provided this question, and I can't reduce my stress. No, I can't take away my business. I can't take away home life stressors. I can't take away stressors of raising a child. I can't just get rid of that stuff. It doesn't work that way. But what I can do is look at how those things are impacting me, accept that my work is going to be a stressor, maybe giving myself a little bit of time off if I need to. Maybe saying, I'm going to take an evening for myself, maybe hire a sitter if you've got kids and that's one of your stressors. Hire a sitter, ask a family member to watch your child for even 2 hours so you can do your self-care strategies that I just talked about a few minutes ago. Real advice and suggestions are, don't be so hard on yourself. Make time for yourself, even if it is 10 minutes. The one list that I provided that had some resources, there's an app on there. That app is about how you be able to use mindfulness skills, shutting our brain down in a healthy way, being able to say, hey, I need a break, or I need some time to do what I enjoy doing. That's what self-care really is about as well. Doing what you enjoy and what's going to recharge you and make you feel good. So things are restricted, just basic life. I can't stop working and just go do whatever, but I can maybe schedule myself 2 hours early, and maybe I might sit down and read a book before I go home, or maybe I go for a walk, maybe I go for a run, maybe I start creating a schedule for gym time if that's something that we want to do. The most important thing with this resilience piece that I like to talk about is not necessarily, looking at just your limitations, but how do you work your limitations into something that you can have? Schedules are great for that. So I plan my schedule and I include 2 to 3 days a week that I have an 1.5 hour to 2 hour break that I can go for a run. If I don't schedule that, it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to be able to make the time for that. Being able to tell yourself that it's okay that you have these stressors, tackling one stressor at a time. So you can't get rid of them. Your circumstances, meaning you can't reduce your stress. No, I can't get rid of them. But I can say, what am I taking on as my own? Where is my stressor? If we talk about a work stressor, okay, so maybe they're wanting me to take on more than I can realistically handle. Okay, so I have to be an advocate for myself and say, this is too much for me right now, and I can't take on that extra responsibility. Or I start to delegate. I start to ask, how do I lift some of this out of my backpack? How do I take some of it off the bus if I need to? The next thing that we start talking about is, what are signs that you need to seek professional help? What are some of your knowing when you're depressed, knowing when you're anxious, knowing when you need to talk to somebody, red flags for medication adjustments if you're on medications. So for me, professional help depends on each person. How does one know that they're experiencing depression? It just depends on what you feel. If you typically are a get up first thing in the morning, have lots of energy, start getting prepared for work or classes or whatever that you're getting ready to do for the day, and you typically are one that has it all organized, you have all your stuff together. If you start to feel like you're losing control of not wanting to get up and get out, not really caring when you typically are a person that puts a lot of effort into work. I'm a workaholic. An example that I use in my sessions a lot of times, I worked for a company at one point in time, and I started noticing that I was getting really frustrated at work. And I'm not usually a person that gets frustrated. I'm usually pretty laid back, happy, and go lucky. I didn't want to go in. I would sit in the car and I would dread the day. I couldn't find anybody that I could talk to about it that I felt understood. So that's when I was like, maybe it's time that I start looking at that. I was not going into work dressing up. And I don't usually dress up for work anyways. I like to be a little more laid back, but I wasn't even doing my hair. I didn't really want to put makeup on. I just kind of wanted to go in, get done with my day, and leave. If that's a stark difference in your personality, that's a sign. Anxiety, you start to feel more of those avoidance behaviors. That's a good sign. If you start avoiding whatever it is that you are trying to do because your anxiety feels like it's increasing, a good time to talk to somebody. As a counselor, it kind of sounds cliche, but I encourage everybody to at least see a counselor once in their life. Even us as counselors, I recommend that we go through that experience too, so we can know what our clients are going to experience as well. Coming in to see us can be very scary. Can be kind of like, oh, how do I just tell this person all my life story? And I don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. You get to go in and say, this is what I want to share or don't share. You get to tell them bits and pieces, or you can tell them the whole story. They will work with you and they'll be patient with you through that process. The other side of that is not only knowing when you need to somebody, but who's the right person for you. If you go in and you sit in a counseling office and you literally are like, this person does not understand me, this person is judging me, or this person is, I don't feel comfortable with them. Don't give up. Just sit back and say, okay, this person doesn't work for me. Just like in a working environment, we don't always get along with our coworkers. We don't always like them. We don't always feel good around them. That's okay. So how do we balance that out whenever we do the same thing with seeking services? A lot of times in our field too, we feel like maybe we shouldn't need services, that we can just keep doing it. I got control of it. You may have control of it for a period of time, and that is true. But when it starts affecting your job, your education, your family, your relationships, those are glaring red flags. If people start asking you, are you okay? That might be somewhere that you would say, this is time. Maybe I need to seek some professional guidance and help. Some of us have to look at what you feel and why you feel different. Self-awareness is a big thing to know whether you need those services and when that time is to need a professional assistance. If you don't know yourself, again, counseling would be great for that. They can help you kind of explore who you are as a person. What are your coping strategies that you go to? Which ones are healthy? Which ones are unhealthy? It will start to ask you, where do you fit? What is your needs or your wants or your desires? That is a great tool for learning your self-awareness to know then, this is impacting me beyond what I believe I can handle and take care of. Red flags for medication adjustments. My patients like to tell me that when they start a new medication, they can feel that difference. So they maybe are happier. They're maybe more active socially. They are not as distracted at work. They feel like they're getting more accomplished. When a medication change might need to be adjusted is when you start to feel like that's not happening. I'm going back to not wanting to get up and do things, or I'm starting to having more panic attacks again. The basic one that I like to give as an example is usually with bipolar patients, because their medications typically have to be adjusted every so often, depending on whether they're in a manic state or a depressive state. So in a manic state, they'll start shopping more. They'll start being more impulsive in their decisions, spending more money, doing different things that doesn't make sense. With that being said, you can see those behavior changes, especially if you're a clinician. You can start to watch, this is how this is going downhill. They start to speed talk. That's a big one. They're talking really, really fast, or their dynamics aren't as coherent. They're not cognitively understanding everything you're saying. I usually breach into that with them and go like, hey, I'm seeing some differences again. Are your medications working as well, or do you feel like maybe they're not? Have you stopped taking them? Did something happen where you missed a few days of them? That can be a change, and that can impact it too. So with red flags, it really is, why do I feel different, and has anything changed within my environment that may make that difference? So then maybe it's not meds, maybe it is. Medications, just like with everything else, we start to become somewhat immune to them. Sometimes if more stressors happen in our life and we're becoming more overwhelmed, especially with COVID, there was a lot of my patients that had their depression medications increased or their anxiety meds increased. They did that because as things continued to escalate through COVID, they were not feeling like they had as much control over what they were experiencing, how they were handling things. Those are some things to look at to kind of give you an idea on red flags if adjustments need to be made. So that leads us into what is considered normal. Okay, so a question that was here was, what is normal? Is everyone same in that way? How do we differentiate between normal episodes of feeling unwell versus escalation to a disorder? The analogy that was given here, just being overweight, maybe some work, but pretty good. Here's where we start into obesity territory and the health markers. So I'm going to use a little bit of that one, and I'm also going to apply some other things. There is no sense of normal. Normal can't necessarily exist. Societal normal, like, yeah, to an extent, but everybody's normal is very different. So what is normal for me may not be normal for somebody else. I'm a workaholic. It's what I like to do. I enjoy work. So my norm is working a lot of hours. Somebody else, their norm may not be working a lot of hours. So if it's moving into something that's causing a problem, as a workaholic, if I start not working a lot and I start dreading work, that's whenever it's maybe moving into something more serious. Same with anxiety. Not typically an anxious person. But if I start to experience what I would call my anxiety, that would be abnormal for me because I don't typically have that. So it's more or less about what it is that's changing within yourself. Not everybody experiences depression in the same way, and everybody expresses it with their word choices very differently as well. So somebody may come in and tell me, I think I'm depressed. And maybe they list your traditional DSM-5, I've lost weight and I'm not eating as much, or I'm overeating. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm sleeping a lot. I'm fatigued. I'm having crying spells. Those are your standard DSM-5 experiences with depression. However, if it's somebody that maybe is at a different level within their life, it might be something like, I'm not putting makeup on when I want to go to work. I go physically to work, but I don't really put in much effort within work. Normally I go and do social activities, and now I want to stay at home more and I don't want to do much. That might be depression to them. Because again, if it's an introvert doesn't always want to go out and do things. An extrovert may want to. So don't focus so much on, what is normal. There is no definition of normal whenever it comes to what you're feeling. It is your stuff. You can say it to somebody else and they're going to tell you, I don't understand why you're stressed. You're fine. To them, for how they function, you may appear fine. But depending on how you typically function, you may not be fine. You may not be feeling like you're fine. So I'm going to use a little bit of this example, the analogy of the obesity. So when I'm looking at obesity as a whole, even in my sessions, I look at somebody's natural build. So not everybody is built super skinny and tiny. That does not exist in this world, even though some people want it to. If they are more of a stocky build person, that may not be obesity in the sense of a clinical disorder. It might be their body shape, the way that they're just built. I also try to look at their family history. Does obesity run in the family? Do they have a medical condition that can impact that? Diabetes, big one. Even with it being managed, you can still experience obesity with diabetes. If you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, that can impact your weight gain and your weight changes that'll create obesity. Doesn't necessarily make it a disorder, just something that you need to watch and look at because of how your body functions or changes. I start to ask the basic questions of why they eat. So, do I overeat because of stress? Do I overeat because I'm bored? Do I overeat because I'm used to bigger portions? All those things can impact why I'm doing that. So again, you have 3 people all experiencing obesity. One maybe has diabetes. That's where the obesity is maybe coming from. Another one, their family history, the way that they're naturally built, they're going to be overweight, they're going to be heavier set. That's okay. That is what it is. Then you throw in the third one that maybe they are depressed, they overeat, they've developed a form of obesity. All 3 needed treated differently and with different experiences. Can't be just across the board, well, obesity is obesity. Person will explain to you that maybe they don't have control that's a big sign. That's huge. With if it's a disorder, I don't have control over how much I'm eating. I feel like all I do is sit down and eat, or I do this for the comfort of what I feel. Those are all those pieces that come into that. So when we talk about what is considered within the normal realm of therapy or in the normal realm of mental health, we start saying, what is the societal norm for yourself? What is the societal norm as a whole? How do you typically do things? Where does your family see you typically doing things? That can give you that line of what is normal for you. Family will start to point out like, hey, you're not taking care of the house like you used to. It doesn't seem like a big deal because we all have off weeks, but how long does that last? How long does that stay within that? One of the things I like to look at is the societal norm of a breakup. We all hear the cliches and romance novels and TV shows and movies. You go through a breakup, you sit down, you eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's. Okay, that's going to happen. It's fine, not the end of the world. When do I eventually move forward from that is what determines whether that maybe is normal or abnormal for yourself. So if it is normal for me to sit down and eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's anyways, because I really like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, then that's not out of character for me. That's not out of the norm. That's not out of a societal norm. Most people like to go get ice cream. If I'm doing that when I normally wouldn't be because I am depressed, or I am feeling overwhelmed, or I'm eating because I am bored, I'm going to be doing that a lot more than what I typically would. I'm also going to be doing that in a sense of everybody is needing something from me. So I'm just kind of eating and eating and eating and eating. It's something that changes within your routine. You go through a breakup, you sit down and eat your pint of Ben and Jerry's. Do you do that for 6 months? Do you do that for a year? Do you not recognize that that's abnormal for you and continue to do that and make that a new norm for yourself? If that's the case, it can be kind of a little sketchy and can move into what is not normal, or what is not good for you or good for you. Red flags for those things are identifying yourself. I think if there's ever going to be another training, maybe it's a training on self-awareness. How do you develop that self-awareness to be able to tell yourself, this is what is me? A lot of times I'll ask my clients, who are you? What do you like to do, not do? And they struggle to give me that information because they never take the time to sit down and really ask themselves those deep-rooted questions. Who am I? What am I? Where do I fit within this world? So physical indicators of being mentally unwell, are there some that are like chicken egg scenarios? That was another question that was asked. So physical can be anything, truly. I have seen from the basics of my stomach aches and kids coming in saying that their stomach always hurts. Parents automatically take them to the doctors. The doctors go, nope, there's nothing wrong with them, because there's probably not physically anything that is a medical condition that's causing their stomach to hurt, but it could be anxiety. Anxiety can cause your physical symptoms a lot of times. You may be having chest pains, and they almost feel like they're just like a dull chest pain. The amount of people that I've had come into my office and tell me, like, I went to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. They're my age, 30-some years old. They're not having a heart attack. That's that tightness in your chest and the chest pain that comes from anxiety. They'll develop shortness of breath. That's a physical indicator of anxiety. They will get the trembly hands when they have to go do something. They start shaking. That's a physical indicator. I at one point had a client that actually experienced paralysis related to her anxiety. She had gotten so anxious and her body started shutting down from the anxiety, and she experienced short-term paralysis. She couldn't move her legs. It was really crazy for me to look and be like, oh my goodness, like, that's, yeah. With management of her mental health, self-care, learning how to process her anxiety and her stressors, she was able to walk again. The paralysis lifted. Seems different, but our brain and the way that our brains work change things. There's a neuropsychology is something that people are really looking at, and neuroscience. That is something everybody's starting to learn about. How does what our anxiety, our depression, our mental health trigger something in our brain that changes the path of our system and how we experience it? So I've seen people experience eye twitches that you wouldn't typically think would be related to that, but it only happened when the patient got really anxious or stressed at work. Her eye would start to twitch. That's an example of a physical experience. On a therapy personal level, I like to think that those physical experiences don't come first. I feel like it is whatever stressor, whatever environment, what other life experience you're going through that starts to weigh on your mind, weigh on your system, that you then start to experience the physical symptoms. I can tell you what times a year I'm going to get sick. Not because it's cold and flu season, but because of the stressors I'm going to face. School year starts, I'm going to start to experience more anxiety, more stress. I'm going to end up getting sick. The holidays are a good one for everybody. Lots of stressors go on in the holidays. People then start to feel overwhelmed. They end up going through it, and then their body finally says, you're done. You're overwhelmed, you're putting too much on, you're not getting enough rest, you're not taking care of yourself, now you're sick. That's one that I like to use as an example. When we start doing the stomach pains, the headaches, fatigue, you just feel drained, your body starts to feel achy sometimes. Those are physical symptoms of mental health. When you, not necessarily lightheaded, but kind of lightheaded if you're feeling panicky and you're feeling a panic attack arising. You have the stomach pains a lot of times. You feel sluggish. That can be a sign of the depression. Physical experience of crying. Okay, that's part of those things. Your body just jolting sometimes because it's just like, there's too much pressure on me, there's too much weighing on me. Those are some physical signs of depression, physical signs of anxiety, and they usually do come after the event of a stressor. It's not like they start first usually. If you've never had stomach pains before and you start experiencing them, take a look at it. A family member of mine started having chest pains. So they went to the doctor, they were having the heart checked, everything came back normal. A little bit higher blood pressure, which can sometimes be a physical symptom as well. But overall, health came back fine. It continued to happen. We found out that their mind was not recognizing that they were experiencing anxiety, which they then didn't know to take care of, which then resulted in the chest pains and the feelings of like, something's wrong with my heart. Once we looked at that and I started asking, is it maybe anxiety? They started saying, nope, I'm not anxious. I've always dealt with stress. I'm good to go. You think you're good to go, not necessarily that you are. Once we started identifying recent stressors for that person, I started to go, so what are you doing for yourself? And they weren't really doing anything. They were going home and watching some TV, but that wasn't releasing anything. So we started using a stress relief lotion and doing mindfulness and working it through your hands, taking a couple deep breaths to slow down the anxiety. Getting more sleep was part of that person. Going for walks to clear their head, listening to music. Once I implemented all those things with that family member and started saying, try these things, they were able to better manage it. Now, whenever she's got a lot going on in her life, she will use those tools to reduce all of that. Just some things that you can start to look at and how you can start to balance out more of what you're doing. The symptoms will return too if you're not managing it well. So clients will come in, I had panic attacks when I was a kid. Okay, did you see a therapist then? Yes. All right, you managed your anxiety then. Did the panic attack stop? Yeah, didn't have any physical symptoms. Feeling really good. Now everything's back. If you don't keep up with it and you don't consistently use your self-care strategies, you will see these things start to decrease and you'll start to experience all those physical symptoms all over again. So the next question that we had was, can you address how you know if an article or a book is good advice or if it's something that's just total bunk and doesn't work? Again, this is going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but it depends on yourself. It depends on what you feel like might work for you. If somebody tells me to color, that's not going to work for me. I already know that. No, not going to color. Don't want to do it. If I'm not a physically active person and the idea of going to a gym makes me like, ugh, that's not a good option for me. I use a lot of PESI trainings, which is PESI. You can get on their website, you can order different books, different training materials. Absolutely wonderful. There's a lot of self-help books in there too that you can order for yourself. and what it works for you. So I buy a book. I know the book is a good book just because of where it comes from, the references in the back. Always be checking that if it's an article online. Actually look up some of their references and see if you can find an article that they've listed as a resource, because if you can't find the resources, that's usually a good indication that it's just a random person that came up with some different ideas to try. So I may not find the whole book useful. So I have a book here. It is called The Self-Esteem Workbook for Teens, and it is by Lisa Schaub. I like the book. It's a good resource for me to use, but I don't pull everything out of it. I don't use all of this book. I've kind of skimmed through and found things that I find useful for my style of treatment and what I like to do. Or if I know my patient's got something going on and I resonated with something in the book or an article or something I find, I will pull bits and pieces. So don't dismiss it just automatically assuming that it's not a good book or it's not a good article or it has a bunch of junk in it. It may have quite a bit of junk in it, but it might have something that you find in there that you really like and you want to use that. That is something that is probably the best. There's different forms of treatment out there: DBT, CBT, acceptance and commitment therapy, positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's all types of forms of books and articles and things related to that. Find what your type of treatment is. I use a lot of ACT and positive psychology. They go hand in hand. So a lot of my articles, I'm looking for things that are similar within that. If it resonates and similar within that, I know it's probably a good article for me. So I can apply it and use it. Skim through and see if there's a lot of errors in it. If there's a lot of errors in it, again, probably somebody sitting behind a computer that said, I developed this. Check a little bit too with, if you know the DSM and you know what you're kind of looking for with in terms of mental health and self-care, does it match what would be with the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic or some of these other places that deal with some of that stuff? That's a big one. Again, I purchase almost all of my books off of PESI, and that's where I go for a lot of my trainings in general and my information, just because I find that they're the leading process for mental health and trainings related to mental health. So I find different things that are tried and true for me. Read bits and pieces yourself, see if it resonates. If you're reading and you go, well, it sounds ridiculous, it's not the right fit for you. Probably something that does not add up and make sense. A lot of mental health is common sense. It's more about, does this seem like this would be something that would work when it comes to self-harm? So I read a bunch of articles about self-harm, research on finding ways to balance self-harm and to reduce it and find replacement behaviors can be hard to find. So we started asking ourselves, what are some things, and we Google it. There was a lot of stuff out there that I'm like, if I put myself in my patient's shoes and I have this feeling of self-harm that I need to release pain, that's probably not going to do it for me or do it for them. So I start to say, all right, that article's not for me, or that article's got some stuff that, like, general things, like just go for a walk. That's not going to be enough. If somebody's self-harming, not going to be enough. It might be use a rubber band and snap your wrist so you get a little bit of that pain. As my clients get older, especially ones that have tattoos, I may encourage them to, if you can prevent yourself from self-harming for a month, put some money into an account or into an envelope for yourself to be able to eventually get that tattoo you want. That's turning something that a lot of patients say feels ugly with the scars and turns it into something beautiful. I'll even have my patients, when they want to self-harm, take, they used to call them milk pens or gel pens. Draw something pretty on your wrist. Draw something that makes you positive and makes you feel good, that is good. So it's at the spot where you would want to have the pain and self-harm and the scar, and you turn it into something pretty. That I've used as well. Avoid internet searches that do not have negative, or that do not have a lot of resources attached to them. If it's just an article with no resources, that's a red flag right off the bat. If they're not providing resources, they didn't do their research either. So look at that. If you're looking for books on Amazon, look at the reviews. Are the reviews by people that are also clinicians that have used the book to find it to be successful for their patients? That is probably the best way to look. Any article can have good advice in it. Any article. It just is whether it resonates with you and works for you. I have a set of books that I was going to show all of you that are some good books that I have found to be very beneficial, that I have found that work not only for my clients, but myself. So, and some of them are pesky ones. Some of them I've just heard other clients have used. They have done their own research on self-help books and they really liked them. So I'm going to grab these. So I already showed you the self-help book for self-esteem for kids and teens. This one is called Zen as F. Okay. This one is by Monica Sweeney and it's a journal. So it kind of gives you moments to just use your mindfulness. When we talked a little bit earlier, I was mentioning self-awareness. This is a good book for self-awareness. It kind of makes your brain think a little bit more. There's another one called The Grass is Greener on the Other Side. It's kind of like a journal as well. Makes you start thinking about how do I move myself from thinking where I'm at is horrible and what it would look like on the other side. Then it kind of puts you in the middle ground to recognize that it may not always be better on the other side, that you're accepting where you are now and finding the positives with what you have right now. For a lot of us that are maybe working in the field, there's a book called You Are a Badass. I know a lot of people have heard of it. It's not real new now, but it is a great book that is more real. If you've got clients that are, this is where I'm at, they're very like swearing, telling you I feel like this, I feel like that. This book kind of helps with that because it puts it in common language that you hear in society now instead of all the clinical terms. It also, the only thing I don't like about this book is it gears more towards business and about how you're finding your business model and finding some of that. Overall though, great book, great resources inside of it. I love any of the 5 love language books. They make them now for teens, children, marriages. There's hundreds of them and they're amazing. They're by Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell. 5 love languages is so important because again, self-awareness. If you don't know what your love language is and you don't know what you need from your partner or from your supports or your family to be able to say, this is how they know if I'm functioning well or how they show me that they care, which is going to then impact my depression, anxiety, you're not gonna be able to do it. 5 love languages are huge books, absolutely amazing. I have the one for children, teens, relationships, and I think there's another one maybe for grief, but I can't remember. So look at that stuff too, because those are all really positive books that you can look at. This one is called the PTSD Workbook, okay? And it is by Mary Williams and Soli, can't pronounce the last name. So this book is a workbook that you can use if you're experiencing PTSD. It has a lot of different worksheets inside of it. And one of them is even like writing a letter to the person that, use a military example. So if they're in the military, maybe they were in Afghanistan, maybe they saw some things that were really difficult for them. So they kind of feel like they need to grieve some of that. And how do they accept that what they had to do was real? You can write a letter within this book, and that's part of this. There is worksheets all through this, and it goes step by step to an extent to work through the PTSD and through the trauma that you've experienced. I use this one even for trauma that's not just PTSD, but trauma as a whole, whether it be they lost somebody and that was traumatic. I use this a lot in my sessions to be able to help people because it's attainable. It's right here in your face. You can see it, you can use it, you can read it. So that's another good book. There's another self-esteem workbook that is more for adults. That is this one. And it's like on an orange cover. And it is by Glenn Shiradelli. Another really good workbook. And that's what I stick to, is more workbooks than anything, because we know a lot of the things automatically that we need to be doing. We just don't always know how to apply them to our day-to-day. This book helps you apply it to day-to-day. One of the things in here is a 14-day commitment to taking care of yourself. And it includes, like, you know, how often you exercised, or how often you ate healthy meals, what time you went to bed, what time you woke up. We mentally may do that in our heads, but we don't actually actively do it to bring awareness to it, to utilize it consistently. That's one of those things in here. It talks about the core self. Who are you within yourself? your values, your beliefs. This follows a lot of ACT, which is that acceptance commitment therapy that I use a lot. That's why I really like this book. If you're wanting to learn about different treatments, the ACT approach is one of my favorites. And it gets you more like a guide for how to use it, how to incorporate acceptance into your life, how to manage that this is what you're using or not using. And I believe there's a workbook that is associated with this one as well. But I may have lent it out to somebody, but I know there's a workbook that is right along those lines as well. The last book that I have is the Mindfulness Toolbox. This one has worksheets and it is 50 practical tips, tools, and handouts. So it has all kinds of cool stuff. Tapping into a client's learning style. How do they learn? What do they like to learn about? How do they use their social and interpersonal, their reflective interpersonal, their natural world, just existing? That's in here. Creating a personal intention statement. I'm doing this because this is what I want to be and do. These are all great books and great resources to utilize. And PESI is that place that I go to. It's an online, you can order books off there. You can do trainings on there. Sometimes they have them for like $100, sometimes they're $200, just depends. Best option if you're wanting to learn some of these skills. And you can type in like self-care, self-awareness, supporting your mental health. You can put those words in their keywords and it'll help you find trainings that are related to that or more material that you might be able to look at a self-help book for yourself. So the last thing on here that was listed was how can I address toxic people in situations? That's a big one, huge. So toxic people are always going to be part of your life. You're going to find them everywhere you go, whether it's you're traveling and you find somebody that's maybe mad about somebody else and you're like, oh my goodness. You might find them at work. You might find them in your friendships, your peers, your relationships. They're going to be everywhere. It just is what it is. One thing I learned many years ago was what we call zipping ourselves up. And you literally physically close your mind, close your eyes, you lean down, you start at your toes, and you zip up through your body and back. That is you creating what is your barrier to reduce how toxic people impact you. The situations that occur with toxic people are always going to be there. Really what we talk about when we're saying, how do I address them? I'm setting boundaries and I'm saying what I'm going to let affect me or not affect me, because we all have a choice. Again, sounds cliche. Well, this person made me mad. You chose to be mad about what that person said. But if I want to not care, which we do, you meet a stranger and the stranger says, your shirt's ugly. Okay, that person's not very nice, right? But you're going to let it roll off of you because it's somebody you don't know and you're not taking any weight to it. When we talk about toxic people, they're usually people that are involved in your day-to-day, and you're listening to what they have to say about you to have you then judge yourself. So I'm a typically no-nonsense type of person. Recognize those warning signs. They're wanting and demanding of your time. They're gaslighting, they're placing blame on you for their feelings. Doesn't work. Making rude comments to you, tearing you down, trying to put you in situations to make you look like the bad guy, happening all the time. So if it does, ask yourself, what does this relationship bring to the table for you? What is it that you have in that relationship, and why are you dealing with that relationship the way that you are? If it's a family member, we always go, but it's my mom. Just because it's your mom doesn't mean that you have to engage in it all the time and deal with it 24/7. You do get to say, I'm going to limit my interaction. That may be, I'm not going over there as often. That may mean I'm sticking to topics around the weather, basic topics, weather. Maybe I might stick to how my work is going within reason. That might be it. I'm not going to go into, I feel really stressed about this, or, oh, I got some financial things. No, because they're going to rip into you about it and they're going to make a judgment to it. Keep to normal, balanced, basic conversations that you would keep to a stranger almost. That seems to help. The zipping up modality. Use that. Zip yourself up before you have to go in there. Put your shield of armor on. You know who the person is that is toxic. I'm going in with it of how do I protect myself? How do I keep myself from having to experience this with that person? Works wonders. The situations that are toxic, maybe it's Christmas. That's a situation that you're going into that's toxic. Okay. Do I have to stay for the whole time? Nope. Do I have to give them any information about me when I'm in there? No. Do I have to engage with them and knowing that they're going to make a rude comment and trying to just deal with it? No. A boundary would be, I don't appreciate the way that you're talking to me right now. I think it's time for me to go. Now, they may get mad and then they're going to flip it on you and say, see, I didn't even say anything that was that rude to you. You took it that way. That's gaslighting. Maybe I did take it that way. But at the end of the day, I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to accept it. I get to move forward because I want to. I don't have to listen to what they say. I don't have to get angry about it. I don't have to be sad about it. Society now is very negative towards people as a whole. How many times do we hear people shaming people on the internet, keyboard warriors, get behind there and writing something nasty about somebody? That's always going to be there. You're not going to get that to stop. The control that you have is to say, do I want this to impact my life? Do I want to believe this comment? Do I want that person to have an interaction with me as consistently as they do? And if I don't, then I say no more and I move forward. And I remove myself from having a lot of interactions. Everybody has that one toxic person in their life that's maybe their family member or friend or whatever. So the second I feel that, and I get those red flags of like tearing me down, maybe they say that they're joking, they make comments about what I'm not doing good enough at. Yeah, the second that that person comes into my life, I ask myself, do I want this? If I don't want it, I immediately say, nope. And I stop talking to them very often. If I see them out, I say hi, but I don't say a lot to them. I don't give them any information about myself, about what I'm doing or not doing, because they're not going to be there for me and they're going to tear me down in the process. They're going to say, oh, well, you've gained weight. Yeah, okay, congratulations. So is everybody else in this world, is what it is. Or, oh, well, you lost a little bit of weight, but, you used to be thinner. Yeah, again, congratulations. That's one person's view, not everybody's, and not positive people that I have in my life already. So kind of look at some of that. Be consistent in your word choices and don't argue with them. Don't try to fight back and be like, well, you're not very nice. They're going to use that against you. Instead, excuse yourself from the situation. Hey, you know what? I got some stuff I need to take care of. I'm going to go ahead and go. They text you, you don't have to respond. Or you can just say, thank you. And you get to move on from it. There's power with boundaries. It's the same thing we see a lot with push and pull with borderline personality disorder. They push and pull, they push and pull. I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. The best thing that you can do is set a boundary. Boundary being, you're not going to message me and get me thinking that, oh my goodness, they're going to hurt themselves and I'm going to run into action to be there. And then 5 seconds later, they're going to blame me because I was into action to help them. Okay, so I'm going to divert that back to, did you call crisis? I'm not going to, oh my goodness, are you okay? What do you need? What is this? What is that? I'm now engaging in it and they're going to take advantage of that. Same with toxic people. Don't engage if you know what the manipulation is. If that makes sense. Be confident. Be confident in who you are and what you're willing to stand for. That comes back to this addressing and supporting your mental health. If you're not confident in standing up for yourself, all of these things that we've talked about today are going to come full circle for you again. You're going to have the physical symptoms. You're going to be wondering, when do I need to see somebody? You're going to be worrying about the toxic people. You're going to be worrying about, how do I do self-care? Supporting your mental health comes from making yourself a priority. People a lot of times don't because they feel that they're being selfish. You are not selfish because you take care of yourself. Being selfish is not recognizing anybody else's needs and just bulldozing everybody else to make you have what you want and to feel better. That is being selfish. Being selfish for myself is saying, I need to make time for self-care. It is, I don't have to let these toxic people into my life. It is, I can set a boundary and be confident that I'm doing this because it impacts me in a negative way if these people are doing these things. if I don't not be resilient, right? But if I don't build on how to take care of me and accept what my life is, I'm going to sink. And I don't want to sink. I want to be able to feel that I have some sort of control and balance in my world, if that makes sense. So I want you to think about some of those things and kind of how you would utilize that. Everything's going to look the way that it works for you if you look at it from your lens. So acceptance and commitment therapy talks a lot about your values, your beliefs, and knowing what those are to be able to then make acceptance to whatever all this stuff may be in supporting your mental health. Find that one person that is your support person. They're going to be the ones that look at you and tell you, why are you doing that? I have good support systems in that area. They're going to look at me and say, do you have to keep doing that? Why are you doing that? Is that good for you, Tara? Tara, it doesn't seem like that's making you happy. Okay. It doesn't mean that I make every decision on my happiness and go like, well, I don't want to work today and that would make me happy, so I'm not going to work. No. But overall, am I doing the things that are going to be good for me, for my mental health? Meaning, maybe I like to run. So, but everybody's on me about running. Maybe that toxic person in my life is telling me, well, you're always wanting to work out. Yeah, because it's good for me. Now, if that becomes an obsession and I'm never taking care of my other stuff and I'm not going to work or I'm not taking care of things at home or doing this and it becomes an obsession and I let everything else go, maybe they have a valid point. But if they're saying it because they're that toxic person, no. I like to do that. That's my self-care. I need that for me to feel my best, to be a happier version of me. Put those things into perspective as you're thinking about that. I really enjoyed doing this training. I really enjoyed providing some of this information and kind of, looking at what it is and supporting your mental health. Mental health is huge right now, especially with COVID, and we're seeing an upkick in people wanting to learn more about how do they take care of themselves. With COVID, everybody crashed. And we still see the delay crashes even now, especially from our healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders, any of our people that were considered essential workers. We see them hitting a second wave of being exhausted because they didn't get a break. They didn't get to take any time off from any of this. Your nurses were working even more hours. So what we talk about with that is if you're not taking and setting a boundary for yourself and setting some time to say, I need a break, you'll continue to be not supporting your own mental health and you'll fail. It's just going to feel miserable and you're not going to be able to bounce yourself back. Supporting your mental health with COVID, especially during all of this, is about how do I keep moving in the right direction and still feeling good? We're all going to have days that we don't. We're all going to have days that we feel like we don't want to keep doing it. Take a mental health day. I encourage that for my clients. I encourage that for myself. There might be a day where I'm just like, I don't want to go to work. Yeah, is it going to suck that maybe I have to cancel some people and maybe I have to move some things around? Yes. But maybe I really need that day to recharge because I'm not going to be good for anybody else if I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not going to be good for my family, my supports. I'm going to crash because I'm not doing what I need to do. So these are some things that I want you guys to try to apply and use if you need. The leader of this Zoom, she does have my email. If you guys have other questions or if you guys have other things that you were confused about or if you want me to elaborate on something, please feel free to email her and she can email me as well. And I will be happy to respond to those and get kind of any information you guys need. I can also maybe send her a couple pictures of these books if you guys would like that, if you didn't catch them through the Zoom session. Just, she can shoot me a quick email and I can get those for all of you as well. But I really appreciate that you guys wanted me to be able to do this. And like I said, if you guys ever have any other questions or if you need any other resources in the area, please do not hesitate to let whoever know to be able to get a hold of us. Again, I'm located in Brookville, so I'm close to everybody. If you guys have any questions, my name again is Tara Rickard, and I do have a local practice here in town, and I do have a Facebook page so that you can even shoot me a message on there if you need it. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.